my blissful selves. Today, let us know in brief about the difference between the gross body and the self. So, the gross body is like a bubble on the surface of the water. The bubbles, they appear on the surface of the water and again they disappear. In the same way, there is the earth, and from the surface of the earth, the bubbles in the form of living beings, they appear innumerably. They arise and then they move from this place to the other place, from that place to this place, and they are in a position to disappear. So, like that, the bodies of living beings are like bubbles on the surface of the water. The gross body doesn't exist before birth, and after the birth of the child cries, the child laughs, and again the child grows. Then there is the decrease in the size of the body, and lastly there is death. After the death of the gross body, he has no existence at all. Like this, the gross body is momentary. Before the birth of the living being, or so before the birth, there is no gross body. After birth, the child cries, laughs, grows and diminishes size and dies. That means the gross body is not there before birth. The gross body is not there after death. Only in between the gross body will be there. So, like that, the gross body is not permanent. It is just like a bubble. But the so-called the self is not born, and the self is not dead. Like that, the self is permanent. But the so-called gross body is momentary. The so-called self, it exists during all three periods of time. The self is existent during the past, during the present, and during the future. So, like that, the gross body is false, and the self is the truth. So, that is the exact difference between the gross body and the so-called self. The human gross body, is made up of by the union of egg of the mother and the sperm of the father. The gross body has been made up of the skin. Then inside the skin there is the fat material. Then there are the muscles. Then again there is the skeleton. There have been present the nerves, the blood vessels, and even there are feces. The urine is there and the semen is there. So like that, the gross body is impure. But the self is not the result of two things, but it is very pure. The gross body is the result of the sinful actions and the virtuous actions. But the self is not the result of sinful actions and virtuous actions. But the so-called self is witness to the body. When there is a gross body conscious, so there is misery to the individuals. When we have gross body consciousness, so there will be misery in the form of hunger, in the form of thirst, coldness, bright sunlight, sultriness, insult, disease, old age. During old age, the concerned person has not been in a position to see the things. He cannot hear the words. He cannot balance his body. He cannot remember whatever he is talking or doing. Then again, during the old age, there is the maximum desire to enjoy the sensory objects. But not only that, there is the fear of death. So in this way, when there is body consciousness, so all these miseries have been experienced. But when there is no gross body consciousness, all these miseries have not been experienced. During deep sleep, there is no gross body consciousness and there are no miseries. But when we awake from the deep sleep, so there is the gross body consciousness and there begins the experiences of all types of miseries. So in the form of hunger, thirst, coldness, bright sunlight, sultriness, insult, disease, old age, the desire of sensory objects and the fear of death. So since childhood till old age, when we enjoy the objects, for example, every eye view, every smell, every taste, every touch, and every word. Usually we think that they are givers of happiness. And we continue this till old age And in old age, the desires of all these strengthen. When there is gross body consciousness, there is fear. When we awake, we will have fear. But when there is no gross body consciousness, that is during deep sleep, there is no gross body consciousness and there is no fear has been experienced. During deep sleep, when we will be sleeping, even the cobra may move on our body, gross body, but we will no fear at all. But when we awake, so we will be in a position to fear for the snakes and other harmful creatures like that. But the self is witness to the gross body and it has no fear at all. So the gross body consciousness gives us miseries, but the self consciousness gives us happiness. The so-called gross body is insentient. That means the gross body has no knowledge of its own. The gross body has no knowledge that it is there. And the gross body has been in a position to know anything that has been present in this surrounding. So this nature has been called insentient nature. But the so-called self is sentient. That means the self is aware that its nature is of consciousness. And the self has been in a position to know that the surrounding objects that have been present, so it is aware of all those things. Though in this way, the gross body is of insentient nature, but the self is of sentient nature. Then the so-called gross body gradually changes. So it changes from childhood till old age, and lastly it is destroyed. But the self is unchangeable. It has no birth, it has no death, and it is not destroyable. So like that, the gross body is momentary. That means it is not permanent. But the so-called self is permanent. The self is unchangeable. And it is permanent means it is eternal. So the gross body is only in the waking state. So this has been called as the waking state. So this waking body is present in the waking state. This gross body is not present in the dream. It is not present in the deep sleep. In the same way, the dream body is present in the dream. But the dream body is not present in the waking state and in the deep sleep. Then there is the causal body in deep sleep. So the causal body that has been in the deep sleep is present in a deep sleep only. But the causal body has not been present in the dream and waking states. But the self is present in the waking, in the dream, in the deep sleep, like that. The self is witness to the all three states. The self is present in all the lives. So the self is permanent. The self is permanent truth. But the gross body is momentary and false. So by this I end my speech.